communicate with the council members and at this time. What's the council's pleasure on this item?
I don't have a copy of this in my packet. Move to approve resolution 12-1213.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The resolution number 12-1213 is authorizing disincorporation of the City of Pacific. Councilmember Putnam.
Can we pause discussion until James is on?
Yeah.
Well, it certainly is not our first choice. Disincorporation is a very permanent answer to what we would hope would be a temporary problem. But we've been trying to find alternative insurance for the city and have so far been unable to do so. We've got very polite laughter from some very professional people. We've studied other alternatives as a committee. One option is consolidation into another city. I believe Council President Geyer has informally discussed this with some other cities at this point. One option is disincorporation. If Council approves this, then this would not dissolve the city by itself. This is something that would go to the voters. The voters of the city would decide whether to disincorporate the city or not. If neither of those work, we end up continuing to operate the city without insurance. That makes employees and officials of the city personally liable for the liabilities of the city. If something goes wrong, they come after the employee, they come after the council, they come after the mayor. If there are not city assets to satisfy it. And the city has a number of assets. We could survive a number of claims by slowly selling off parks, the gym. Well, no, we can't sell the gym. Yeah. And we don't own the main park. You know, there are pocket parks. There are little things, little assets the city could get rid of to survive some claims, but it's not a sustainable model to operate a city without insurance. In fact, in conversations with CIAW, with Association of Cities, with MRSC, none of them has any experience that they can share with a city having operated for any length of time without insurance. This is entirely new ground for them. Their only recommendation is, under no circumstances should you do it. So this is not this is not Plan A, this is not Plan B, this is Plan Z. But Plan Z is better than not having a plan.
So, and as Josh stated, the committee has been meeting and trying to come up with what happens to the city, what does the city look like if we do not have insurance as of January 1. I had a conversation with Bill Ritchie from our insurance carrier, and they are meeting with the board of directors on December 10th. We should have an answer whether they will even offer us an extension of our insurance company. They will not at this time commit to an extension. They have strong reservations about continuing insurance with the City of Pacific. And so knowing that, we needed to figure out how do we take care of the citizens of Pacific? What does it look like? What do we do from here? And as Josh stated, disincorporation This is merely a step that needs to be done 90 days before it even shows up on the ballot. It does not go to the auditor, it's not reported, but it needs to be approved by council 90 days prior to a special election that would take place February 12, 2013. If that's the route we have to go, we cannot wait beyond, actually, I think the 90 days was the 14th, tomorrow. So this is just a step to have it in place. It's a safety measure just in case. What if? We are staring at so many what ifs. What's going to happen? What's it going to look like? Not very many people can give us answers. As stated, the option of consolidation, I've reached out to all the mayors that surround our city, that touch our borders, and asked them if they would be interested in considering consolidation, taking over Pacific. That would keep the services in place for all the citizens in the city of Pacific to ensure we have services. There's some talk, that Sumner only wants Pierce County part, and and those kind of things, and we're kind of taking the approach all or nothing, but we really don't even want to do it. We're just having these conversations just to see what does it look like. Consolidation seems like a better option than disincorporation. At least with consolidation, you have services that are offered to the citizens of Pacific. The number one hope that we have right now, and I am pleading with our insurance company, and we're trying to do everything necessary to do the steps to at least get maybe a grant of an extension of our insurance through maybe the end of March. Let's see if we can't have another 3 months to try to get everything in order and get the city looking insurable. We're trying to take the steps. We started filling the vacancies. Council is committed to a class that is taking place this Saturday here from 9 till noon, training with mayor and council. One of the things that the insurance company wanted to see, that class is set up. We're all scheduled to be here. So we're trying to take all the steps necessary, and hopefully that's going to carry some weight when they take it back to the board. The board is very concerned about actions that have taken place in the past against the advice of the insurance company that has created the claims that are against the city right now. So we're hoping that we're looking to, we're moving forward. So what I wanted to do is make sure that everybody knew this is what we're looking at. These are our options. And as you know, we passed a resolution last time as far as, I call it our Hail Mary, sending out a letter to all the government agencies around here. And I did get a call back today from Mark Melosha's office. And they're looking into it. They said they're kind of having conversations with Tracy. They don't know what they can do. They want to kind of understand what's going on and see if they can. Want to know if we got a call maybe from the insurance commissioner. And I'm like, not yet. But, we're just doing everything that we can. Our number one goal is to protect the citizens of the city of Pacific. And more than anything, we want to remain a city. We want to stay intact and stay complete. But we also have to look at what happens if that does not happen. How do we take care of the citizens if we're unable to insure?
Another question, it's dead identified here, but I want the people present to understand that we have a timeline from the insurance company, approximately the 12th, what is it, the 14th? 10th.
The 10th is when the board is.
And then we have a cutoff on the 17th of December, where we could stop the disincorporation process.
The 28th of December is our final drop dead date to turn it over to the auditor to go onto the ballot. So we don't have to do anything with it until that day. The reason we discussed about December 17th is there's been talk of possibly holding a special meeting on December 17th, because if there is no insurance for the city of Pacific, we're not sure if there's going to be council members as well. And so if that was the case, December 17th might be a special meeting for council members that wanted to resign. Because the following week is Christmas Eve. And we could even push it out to December 31st, but we were looking at timelines.
Any other comments, Councilmember Steiger?
Yes, I've been, being sent here, I was a little bit out of touch. What would we do between January 1 and February 10th, or whatever that date is? I mean, we're hanging out here in limbo. What, do we just shut down for a short period of time? I mean, what would we do?
From everything I've been able to gather from the sources that have, the city continues to exist. We continue to have tax revenue. We continue to have obligations. We have no insurance, so we don't know how many employees would be willing to show up to work without any coverage for their actions. We don't know, to be honest, how many members of council would still be members of council if they were personally liable without any insurance coverage. I suspect that's not a majority of the council. So the honest answer is we don't know what happens January 2nd.
Realistically, the city would have to enter into an interlocal agreement with the police department to provide certain services to the city. The city would have to enter into a contract with a water company to run its water system, because I understand we own our own water system. We'd probably have an agreement with the sheriff to provide 911 emergency services, but beyond that, everything would shut down.
And this assumes, of course, that we can find someone willing to take on our utilities and other services. The police services, I don't think we would have a problem. We've got existing mutual aid agreements with King County and surrounding jurisdictions, but would expect that they would be willing to honor those even if our force was off the street. But
It's not mutual aid.
is that
If that were to happen, then mutual aid is, if we are supporting our own city, if we need backup or we need this or that, but
if we have nobody on staff, then we're not holding up our end of it?
no, they won't.
Okay. Yeah, and we have asked King County, haven't gotten a firm answer on, other than that we'd probably be dispatched out of Maple Valley and have 45-minute response times for serious issues, if they decided, okay, we're providing service.
So, and just a FYI, the city attorney and I are meeting with King County tomorrow at 2:30 in his office to ask more questions, get more answers on what happened with the disposal.
Fair housing?
Yeah. Taking 103 years to build it. And, I will be voting no on this resolution. And I won't resign. I committed to take this position and see the city through possible storm. I am going to take those commitments, and it doesn't matter what it takes. I'm in for a penny and for a pound.
Any other comments from the council? Councilmember
Yes, I'm
Steiger?
still trying to get this. So, what we're doing right now, we are just approving a stopgap possibility. We're not making no commitments to anything at this point, except getting our ducks in a row. So, if we have to make these steps, we can make them.
That's correct.
And we still have this no answer between January 1 and whenever the ballot deal would be. So, but then again, if other things come on, like, for example, if a recall comes on at the same time that the business corporation comes on, are we going to really cloud that ballot? And then we would, I'm not comfortable with clouding the ballot with both issues. I would think that if the recall issue is granted and whatever, I think we should hold the disincorporation issue. I mean, so would we be able to do that in December?
Well, our next opportunity to have a special election is April. So if whatever reason that the recall did not make it on that ballot, if we're counting on a recall to solve this problem, if it didn't make it for the February docket, now we're into April with no insurance, possibly no insurance, or if we're asking for an extension to get us through March, then do we ask for another extension? Because there are certain timelines, there are only certain times they run a special election. There's February, the next one is April. Does that make sense? Am I answering your question?
Still, maybe I'm a bit headed here somewhere at this moment, but if we vote yes tonight, and then the court rules, say, middle of next month, that we can put a recall on the ballot. So we get the signatures, everything else in place. Would both of these issues end up being possibly on the same ballot?
We can pull this as late as December 28th. So if we thought there was another solution on the horizon by the end of December, we could not file our disincorporation and it would not go on the ballot. If some other solution came up after the end of the year, then the disincorporation vote would still go on the ballot. But, of course, voters can... to be honest, I have some doubt whether we will get a majority in favor of disincorporation, even if the alternative is operating without insurance. There is a lot of community in this city, and I think it's going to be very hard, even under the current circumstances, to convince people that disincorporation is the answer.
That was a comment I was going to make. Even if we approve this issue, this resolution, I think we're wasting our time, because I don't believe that we can get a majority of voters to vote for disincorporation. I think it will fail in the election.
Well, personally, you got to look at what options the city has available to us. So right now, this is just one item that we're moving forward for the citizens of the city to make a decision on. The city, we are out of options. We are still working everything we can do, but we're running out of options. And this is the stopgap. One of the options that we have is to allow the citizens to vote for disincorporation. And as soon as we want to get that on the ballot, as close as we can to the end of the year when we're going to not have insurance. Because right now, that isn't being resolved. And you talk about the recall is still up in the air. It's not a council issue. It's not a city government issue. So if the citizens, if it happens or doesn't happen, whether it's on the same ballot or not of disincorporation, the citizens still have to make the decision. Do they want to support the recall? Do they want to support the disincorporation? All we're doing as council is giving them that say, that stake in that decision. Because ultimately, we may not have active employees, active council in place on January 1st because of the liability issue. Councilmember Watt.
And I think the insurance company made it clear that a recall isn't a silver bullet. It's not like a light switch where, the recall passes and the citizens approve it, and all of a sudden we have insurance and everyone's happy. So we're going to have, like John said, we're going to have 2 months or a month and a half of no insurance. How many employees are left? How many council members are, we're in trouble at that point.
Well, I was just trying to clarify what was going on. I'm not attacking it in any way, but I don't want to get too many things for the citizens to try to understand what they're doing.
I think we can give destroyed it, that if by mid-February we're operating without insurance, but for whatever reason, all the employees are still working and they've managed to fill the vacancies on council, and the citizens are free to vote no on the disincorporation. If we come to the end of February and no one is clearing storm debris and City Hall's lights are turned off, then voters, they'll have a choice. They'll have an informed choice by mid-February as to what things look like if insurance does run out January 1.
Councilmember Guy?
I guess maybe I want to point out, because there's so much conversation and they're mixing the two. The recall is not a council action. That is a citizen action. That the council is not pushing the recall.
That's understood.
Okay, and I just wanted to make sure that we say that everything else that we're doing is just trying to keep the city functioning as a city and looking at what our options are and how we can do that. And hope we can keep insurance. My number one hope.
Mr. Lewis?
I think it's important that we reemphasize what Trent said, and that is having a recall is not going to solve the problems for the city of Pacific. What has happened is that we have gone for many months without certain critical positions in the city being filled. Services and duties were not performed. There's been a backlog. There's been $11.2 million in claims. We have a recall action that is separate from anything that has to do with the city except its residents. The reality of it is, there's certain actions were taken, certain conduct was performed against the advice and recommendation against our insurance carrier. The city is unpredictable in its reaction, and as long as that unpredictability stays there, they will not renew our insurance company or coverage, and the citizens are going to be deprived of the city. That is the problem facing the council. That is what everybody has been working around. That is the problem that we've been trying to attack. The reality is the police department has some problems with its chief. We have other problems involving the clerk. We have $11 million in claims that have been filed, and until that is cleaned up, organized, and get going on a front-looking, forward-looking agenda, the insurance will not be covered and the city's functions will stop. That's the reality.
Yeah, if I could add a little more on that, there's talk of, if we get all these staff positions filled, and we are making some progress in that direction, but that is not the only thing the insurance company demanded when they put us on notice that they were taking away our coverage. They want a professional environment in the city, which means that you take a proactive approach to risk. It means that council is adequately informed of the actions of the city so that we can provide the legislative oversight that is required by law. When is the last time we had a full report from Public Works on ongoing projects? When is the last time we had a full, proper finance with budget? And we've got a wonderful interim clerk who's now our finance director, but we still don't have our financial statements caught up. There's a lot of uncertainty that will take as long to fix as it takes to break. So it's not clear that any resolution is possible that will make the insurance. The board of the insurance company is made up of officials from member cities. They have to look at it as we are extending the risk. It shares risk with all of these other cities. Do I want to put my city on the line to cover them the way they've been acting? Do I feel safe that the problems have stopped and things are on the mend? And that's, Phil Ritchie can't commit the board to that decision. This is a decision that the board members will make as subjectively and objectively as any other board that sits and meets. And the insurance professionals can guide them, but in the end it's the board's decision, and we cannot, I don't think we can afford to bet which way they're going to vote. We need to have Plan Z.